When the Call of Duty Zombies mode came out all the way back in World at War in 2008, the community at the time admittedly did not have a whole lot to work with in the theory department. With the simple Nocturne Totem, it was kind of hard to theorize as to what was going on or if there was any deeper meaning than what was being presented on a surface level. However, this did not stop players from theorizing from a pretty substantial range of concepts, and this trend only continued as more and more maps came into fruition within the Zombies game mode. So in this video, I wanted to take a blast of the past to look back on some old theories that some had in the community, some you may be familiar with due to their infamy, or others you may have never heard of before in your life because of, well, how bad they really were. To discover this, the majority of the posts that I'm going to be bringing up were examples brought up by community members on this Reddit thread made by a user known as Big Yuli. And let me just say, after reading this, I simultaneously had a nostalgia trip and an aneurysm because my goodness were some of these bad. Oh, and one more thing, I'm going to be giving a grade to each of the theories I present here based off of how accurate they were to the actual gameplay or story. So if it's a blatant hoax, then obviously it'll get an F, but if it's a pretty good idea, I'll give it an A or something. But let's start off with one of the more well-known theories that most likely everyone watching this video knows. As said by Dan Coach, there of course was a theory where if you completed certain actions, in this case shooting the box 4 times and going prone, you would get a ray gun, which at the time was one of the more sought after weapons in the game because of the true lack of anything really more powerful. This honestly has to easily be the most well-known theory of the older Call of Duty Zombies games. I have no idea where this theory derived from, but I think the main culprit behind it was the many in public lobbies who would spread the rumors. I know from my own personal experience that I have been exposed to this propaganda myself in public lobbies many times, and even though I never fell for it, many apparently did. This was additionally worsened when YouTubers at the time, such as Jimbathy, famously quite literally made millions of views by posting a strategy such as this that obviously was not true but caught so many people attempting to do it. Even though it spread like wildfire though, this theory honestly kinda sucked because you could pretty easily figure out that it didn't work, so this gets a D. Another theory that many had at the time was the infamous bus route B on transit, which was stated in this comment by Invisibility. Now of course this actually did have some reputability behind it. Within the transit spawn room in the bus depot building, if you look on the posted wall in the middle of the room that shows the route the bus takes to separate locations, those with a keen eye will notice that there is clearly a bus route B that is completely different from the route A we see in the game. Many theories at the time sparked as to how the second route would be achieved. Some said that the nav card system somehow was involved, others said that you had to knife Ted a certain amount of times, but of course none of them were really true in the end. As much as it would have been cool to have a second bus route that could take you to more locations on transit, the map kind of is struggling as it is to hold up on the older engines of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The theory itself wasn't bad at all though, in all honesty, because of the fact that the devs clearly put a second route on that board in the spawn, so you know what, I'm gonna give it a B+, not an A though, because some of those theories were interesting to say the least. Moving back into the old days of Black Ops 1, IRA Bomber brings up a theory I have never heard before that states if you break all the wires leading to the teleporter in Kino Dratoten, then Speed Cola would move and unlock a secret room. I seriously have never heard this one before in my life, and I really have no idea who came up with this theory. Like sure, maybe if you could somehow find a way to break the wires leading to the teleporter, then you could activate some sort of Easter egg, but why in the world would that unlock a secret room behind Speed Cola? And plus, there is like no room over there by Speed Cola in the first place. I'm not entirely sure where you would even enter it, but hey, I guess this is what a lot of people thought considering this got 37 upvotes on Reddit. So for this making almost no sense, this thing just gets an F for find another place to get a secret room. Alright, now this is one I thought was pretty interesting. As stated by Harv99, there was once a theory that Samantha Maxis from the Call of Duty Zombies storyline was the same person as Samantha Cross from the Extinction storyline. So up to this point, we have to keep in mind that the games we are coming off of up to the release of Ghost was strictly World at War to Black Ops 2, meaning we had limited knowledge on Samantha's background and true intentions. However, these two are obviously completely different people. Samantha Maxis was the daughter of Ludwig Maxis and was about 6 to 10 years old, while Samantha Cross from the Extinction storyline looked to be somewhere between 20 and 30. Now, one could say that she was an older version of Samantha Maxis, however, Maxis was from the 1940s while Cross was from the 2000s, so it would quite literally be impossible for that to happen. Additionally, Samantha Cross was on a completely different geographical plane than Maxis, and she studied to become a doctor in paleolithic sociolinguistics to eventually become a member of the Nightfall program, where she would study the cryptids that we see in extinction. So it's pretty clear that these people only share the similarity of the first name, but it makes you wonder why the developers chose to use the same first name for these two characters, because like, come on, there are other basic girl names as well. Why not like Emily or something? I'm gonna give this theory a D, as there was literally no similarity between these two besides their first names, but it wasn't too crazy to think it because of the fact that they literally share the same name. This next comment is really juicy and has an additional theory as well, but let's look at the first one that states that Edward from the Doris radios isn't actually Richtofen. Believe it or not, at the time, many actually did not believe that Richtofen was the person behind some of the radios in Doris, which I find to be really strange, honestly, because he literally sounds just like he does in the game. Like, take a listen to this.
Do you hear that, Doctor? Quiet, you fool!
Dempsey, would you mind keeping the noise down? Some of us are trying to work!
I mean, I suppose I could understand why many would consider this. At the time, we didn't even know that Richtofen worked at the Doris facility, so it would not make sense entirely without the context, but conversely, there were quotes said by Richtofen himself that clearly stated he worked at the Doris facility, or at least implied it. Overall, the theory itself was not too horrible, considering at the time we were not aware Richtofen worked at the Doris facility, so I guess I'll give it a C because of the time period. However, this deleted user has a second bonus theory that I personally think is one of the more interesting theories and definitely one of the more far-reaching theories, and that is that Primus Richtofen was meant to represent Jesus and Ultimus Richtofen was meant to represent Lucifer or the devil. Now, this is a wild theory, but I could see where some people are coming from to a certain extent. In the Black Ops 4 ending of Blood of the Dead, Richtofen famously places himself into a device that begins to drain his quote-unquote sinful blood at a rapid pace, essentially sacrificing himself in a very similar manner to the way Jesus Christ himself did. I am by no means comparing this man to Jesus Christ. In fact, I think that would be completely blasphemous, but the theory does have some validity behind it. Additionally, Ultimus Richtofen could be seen as Lucifer through his purely evil actions to manipulate those around him and ultimately take over the world, similar to how the devil acts in the Bible. All in all, this theory is completely wild. I believe it was a pretty popular theory around the time of Black Ops 3 and 4, but finding any remnants of it nowadays is extremely difficult. But for its in-depth reasoning and decent context behind it, I'm going to give it a B for blasphemy. Next up is one of the more unknown theories nowadays that was once extremely popular, the transit horse. Now, for those who don't know, the transit horse was a theory that was originally actually developed by the voice actor of Frank Woods, James C. Burns, in the campaign, surprisingly, which is just super random, but he stated in an interview with Noah J456 that he thought he saw a horse in the trailer for transit. This news was spread like wildfire within the community. A creator known as Black Ops Amazing, who still posts today actually, made a comprehensive video that details where in the trailer he thinks he saw it, and I'll play the clip here.
We go back to this screenshot, we can see just down the right hand corner what looks to be the horse. Now this looks to be a horse facing the other way. You can also see that it's got some person with it. Maybe that's a zombie, maybe that's a person, I'm not too sure.
As you can see, it was a pretty big deal, and although I can only kinda see the horse here, I honestly think it was a pretty lackluster theory, so I'll give it a D for donkey. I don't know. Alright, so this one is probably one of the most well-known theories in Call of Duty Zombies history, and that is brought up in a comment by Anti-Swag Corporation, which states that there would be a Hitler boss on round 100 on Doris. Now, this theory had one of the longest runs in Zombies history because it wasn't limited to just Doris. It moved from Nocturne Toten all the way through Keynoter Toten because people really believed in a Hitler boss fight on round 100. This mainly was just sparked from theory of delusion because realistically nobody in the world even attempted to prove its validity, so it honestly just really sucks as a theory, but I won't lie, it is just so extremely iconic. To this day, we actually haven't had a Zombies Hitler boss, which I find a little weird. It seems like something Treyarch would mention in a side Easter egg or something. Anyways, this theory was horrible, and I'll give it an F for Fuhrer. The Shiza Solid stated that another theory that was spread at the time was that there would be an Earth staff that is hidden on Origins. Now, this was not too far-fetched of a theory, I suppose. Obviously, the elements of ice, wind, fire, and lightning were present, so why could there not be another Earth staff? Well, first of all, I have no idea how that would even work, to be completely honest, and second of all, there was not a singular reference to this within the game or the game's files, so the only reason I really had any significant validity was because of the fact a crucial crucial element was missing from the wonder weapon pool. It was a pretty decent theory, however, and managed to spread around the community pretty fast, but it honestly is just not a good theory in hindsight. So I'll give it a D for decompose. I don't know, I'm running out of ideas here. Troncross brings up a good one though that relates to the story, which states that some people believe that the Vril sphere we see in Moon is the same thing as the summoning key from Black Ops 3. As stated by Tron himself, it actually is not a horrible theory by any means, but there is a lot of reasons as to why they are different. The Vril sphere, or more known as the Vril egg, is meant to function as a GPS when connected with another system made to direct it, which when combined with the MPD we see on Moon would allow the user inside to locate specific points on Earth or ideal locations for polarization towers. On the other hand, the summoning key was a device crafted by the Keepers that was used by the first one to mix all the dimensions with life, giving each one its unique balance, and under certain circumstances, it has the ability to form bridges between dimensions, allowing the transfer of life forces back and forth, which is what we see in Black Ops 3. Clearly, these two spheres have distinct differences between them that demonstrate that they are not one and the same, but I can understand why some people would think this. So honestly, I'm gonna give this theory a B because, well, it's not too bad actually. Now, for some reason, people back in the day really liked mixing the extinction mode with the zombies mode we see in the Black Ops games, because a user named Doom4014 states that people thought Nuketown Zombies and Point of Contact from Extinction took place at the same location at the same time. This theory makes absolutely no sense. First of all, the Extinction and Call of Duty Zombies lore literally has no correlation whatsoever. They are their own separate storylines that each have their own lore. However, that aside, it still doesn't even make sense because Nuketown Zombies is in Nevada and Point of Contact is in Colorado, so it makes no sense. The only correlation these two maps have realistically is the fact that they both take place during or after nuclear warfare, and that is quite literally it. Now just imagine for a second if this was actually the truth. Like, imagine you get done fighting zombies in a Nuketown situation and then suddenly find yourself fighting aliens after surviving a nuclear attack. That's just insane. Oh yeah, I forgot to grade this one. It's an F. So this next one, I'm just gonna read it. According to Rainbow Banana 26, there was a theory back in the day that the Who's Who perk jingle referenced a quote-unquote black man, which led to theories suggesting that Russman was involved with it in some way. Just take that in real quick. I mean, sure, Russman was one of the very few black people in the zombie storyline at this point, if maybe even the first one, but still, like, the Who's Who jingle doesn't even sound like that, so I have no idea what people were thinking. I'm not even gonna elaborate any further. This just gets an F because, my goodness, I guess the zombies community was just down bad after getting Transit and Die Rise consecutively and just made up random theories like these. Another theory brought up here was another one that is pretty well known, and that is the theory that Misty from the Rictus crew is the daughter of Dempsey. Now, of course, there are multiple quotes in maps like Dr. Toten that support this, for instance. But it quite possibly could not happen because of the fact that Misty is alive in 2025 and Dempsey was alive in the 1940s, so yeah, that makes no sense. So for that, I like the effort they were going for, but I'm gonna give it a D for Dempsey. And finally, the most well-known one, Zombies Chronicles 2. Do I even need to go in depth? This has been theorized countless times over the years in hopes that it would actually happen, but of course I'm honestly not sure if it will ever happen, but I suppose we'll see. But that is it for all the early theories that I wanted to cover in this video today. If you guys want to check out more theories that I may have missed, which mind you is a lot, but don't go too far because you might lose some brain cells, then please go check out the original post in the description. Even though some of these theories are not right in any way, I do still appreciate them for the simple fact that their existence inspired Treyarch to develop an in-depth storyline for the mode through these early theories, and I really cannot overstate how important they truly were. But with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know by liking and subscribing, and leave a comment about your personal theory that is not very great. But with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.